Hi there, my name is Charlotte, and welcome to another podcast with Hanaz Writers Limited. My name is Charlotte, and if you haven't heard any of my podcasts before, then be sure to check out Hanaz Writers YouTube and Spotify channels. I've got a few podcasts up already, so they're free to listen to, and they're all about writing English, learning the language, and studying it during GCSEs and A-levels. So this podcast is actually about a new campaign from University English. It's called the Englishcreates campaign. And University of English are a non-profit organisation for English lecturers in universities and colleges across the UK. Their campaign is called Englishcreates, and on their website they state that their mission is to champion, defend, and expand access to the study of literature, language, creative writing in English in all their forms and regionalities and nationalities, particularly for Year 12 and 13 students. So these are the students who are studying English at A-level, who want to then study English at university level. So this week, there are lots of different events happening from the 3rd of June to the 7th of June 2024. And it's being held in different London, and there's also one place in Reading. I've included links to the website for University English. It's at the bottom of this podcast. So if you are interested in the campaign, then click on the link and find out more from the organisation. So I'm just going to go through a few of the events that I found were quite interesting. And one of the events is an exhibition. It's called Small Things Like These, Short Novels to Savour. And this is an event being held in the library at the University of East Anglia. They have a display of short fictional stories from around the world. Visitors are welcome to visit, and you can read the short stories between 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. every day. This is at the University of East Anglia at their library. Another event was held on the 4th of June, and it was a webinar called #EnglishCreates Careers. And this was basically an online webinar by Professor Kate McLaughlin, and she was looking at where an English degree can take you. She was holding a conversation with about English faculty alumni, and then they talked about and reflected on their own journeys since they graduated from university with their own English degrees. And I think it was a talk about all the different career paths that they'd taken as a result after gaining their degrees in English. And then this kind of brings me on to the question of why study English at university level. So just to let you know, I myself studied English language and linguistics at university. I went to the University of Essex. It was a great uni, and I had a time there. I learned so much, and I studied English language and linguistics because I was just interested in it. I'm interested in language, and it has such a long history to it, and even it's a European language, and over the many years, it's become the language that we know it to be nowadays. So most people kind of saw English, when I told people I was doing an English degree, they thought it was kind of a useless degree and that there was no point in learning it. But I was interested in history. I was interested in how it was used. And so it was a silly subject, or I didn't think it was a useless subject. And it was quite interesting because when you learn the language, the history of it, and you learn the linguistics of it, you then realize how you can help other people to learn English, especially those people who have trouble with speaking. It was quite interesting. One of my colleagues, or one of my university friends at the time, she was studying English language to be a sociolinguistic, I thought it's called, or a psycholinguistic, she was studying to become a speech language therapist. And she wanted to help people who had speech impediments, people who had creating to speak, especially those of people who had a stroke and then they've had trouble coming back to speaking after recovering. And she was really interested in trying to get people back into it, back to speaking, back to using the language. And it was a very interesting thing. And she was, at the time, what they called a mature student. I'm not sure if call them now the same thing. So she'd finished her diploma ago. She'd had children and a family, and she wanted to come back to uni to relearn and get this speech language therapist. And I think at the moment she's doing really well for herself as a speech and language therapist. So well done to her. And that's just one of the ways that you can use English language. You're using what you know to help others, and it's a great thing, especially those who need it. Learning English, it's a language. It is used to communicate. It's used things to others, tell people things, and it's a great advantage to know English because it's one of the most used languages in the world, and you can use it creatively. Especially if you want to be like a poet or a writer, or if that's your kind of passion, you can then use what you learned to create things, to write things. And if you wanted to, you can also use it in your creative projects. There's a show that I really like watching in the UK. It's called The Apprentice with Sir Alan Sugar. If anyone's seen it or seen an episode of it, then you know my favourite programmes to watch. And Sir Alan Sugar puts his candidates faces, and he gives them a different task every few days. And one of the most important tasks that he asks them to do is to create a new product, create the branding for the product, create the advertising and information to go on the products, got all this kind of things to do. And this means you need to be creative. You need to know how to communicate to sell your product, especially to when you're trying to sell your product to big companies and trying to get them to buy from you. You need to know information you're going to be putting on your packaging. Think of clever logos and fun little sound things. You need to have good knowledge of English to be able to do any of these things. If The Apprentice was in a different language, then of course you'd have to do the same thing. Say there was another gigantic mogul who wanted to hire an apprentice. You need to grasp of that language, whatever it's in, as well. And again, you need to learn and you need to know. So I do enjoy watching the show, The Apprentice, and the candidates, sometimes they do really well and they're able to create a fun product, branding, they have funny adverts and they get to play on words and get their messages across. And this is the English language in the best way possible. And then sometimes there is the failure to communicate, of course, and this is where the miscommunications happen between team members, miscommunication with the adverts, and sometimes the branded. So it is off-brand branding, unless that's what they're going for, of course. And it's one of those funny things where the great candidates use their knowledge well and they're able to communicate well with their teammates. They're able to create a fun product and again, they're a good brand and sell what they're trying to sell. Yeah. You are studying English and you're aspiring writers and poets. Yeah, you can study literature and you can do a creative writing course alongside it. But you don't have to just do that. You can also do it alongside another university degree, another subject. For example, you can study English literature and drama. So you get to read and study great stories from past writers, and then you can learn how to make your own writing great as well. And if you're studying drama alongside the English degree, then you could think about writing your own theatre script or your own Broadway show, if that's what you're into. And this means that you get to write a new story, you get to create the dialogue between the characters, and you ensure that you get your message across to the audience, which is basically what you want in the first place. You could even study English writing with music. Think about it. Singers need to create song lyrics to go along with the tunes to their songs. If they've known creative English, it can be harder, a bit tougher, or it's a bit trickier. If they study English creative writing and then they can use that knowledge to help them with their music, they got this in their head and then they can add words to it and put the lyrics to it and then create a really nice song. And then there are all possibilities when you think about it. And if you're A-levels at the moment, then think of the ways that you could learn English at university and what use you have with it. Think about what kind of your passions are, I guess, what drives you. And you could do alongside an English degree. You don't have to do, maybe you can do English for a few years. You don't have to do the whole 3 years, maybe just do 1 or 2 and then just see where you go. Yeah, there's always a possibility of it. If you are Englishcreates, the campaign, you can look on the website, universityenglish.uk/Englishcreates / use the hashtag English. I think there's quite a lot on Twitter at the moment. There's quite a lot on Facebook. I think they also have different things on as well. So yeah, find out what's happening in and around London based on Englishcreates or hashtag Englishcreates. You could also do events if you're around in London in the right place at the right time. Or you could just be listening to the advice and read up on things, the advice being given from those who have had that experience and they just want to share it with you. You don't have to read through it if you don't want to, but of course the option is always there. Anyway, let me know what you think. You can leave a below. Some questions just for your food for thought. Why do you think English should or should not be studied at university? And how could a degree in English help you with your work prospects in the future? Yeah, just a few things to think about, especially if you are finishing your A-levels and you're doing your exams at the moment and you're just kind of wondering what could I be doing at university, what could I be studying? Then have a think. English could be a possible choice, a possible route, and it could lead to other things as well. So thank you so much for listening to my podcast. I do hope that you've enjoyed it. If you are becoming an author, then visit hanazwriters.co.uk. They are a publishing company based in London. They are supporting writers and authors to get their stories published. It's a great platform to help you get started in the world of writing. Of course, you can just join the website and upload your short novels or your fiction novels or your poetry to their website. Great place just to get started and just to feel like your work is out there and people can be reading it. If you really like my podcast, you can follow Hanaz Writers on Instagram. They are at hanaz.writers. You can follow them on Facebook and Twitter. Just search for Hanaz Limited. And also remember to like and subscribe onto their YouTube channel where I will be making lots more podcasts. So leave any comments below. I'll be making more podcasts soon and listen out for them. Until next time, bye.